All right. I just feel like making a video, kind of just documenting some of the things that I've been working on. Nothing too crazy, but it's still kind of cool. So we're just gonna open up a new terminal here. And what we're gonna do in this terminal is we're just gonna go ahead and run Hermes. So we're running the command Hermes in this terminal. So this is like the Linux environment basically. And we're running Hermes, which is basically like the equivalent of like clicking a program on your, on your Mac or your Windows PC, double clicking it. We're double clicking the Hermes button. We've already installed it and we're double clicking that button now. So now Linux is going to load that program up and allow us to start interacting with that program. But what is that program? What is Hermes? Hermes is what we call an agentic harness. There's a lot of buzzwords going around, but this buzzword does like deserve a place in the AI space. The harness is very, very important. Essentially, what an agentic harness does, an agentic harness allows us to basically, usually we have ChatGPT. We're only able to talk to ChatGPT, send messages back and forth, etc., etc. A harness allows us, or an agentic harness allows us to go beyond just conversation, and we give the AI basically hands in a way. We give it a keyboard in a way. We give it we give it access to the internet. We give it the ability to enter command line arguments or command line interface to, just like how we are typing in a terminal telling it to run Hermes. What if we allowed an LLM to be able to type in a terminal too? Because essentially it knows how to write words, and a terminal is just writing words. So if it knows how to write words and we teach it what words to write, it can put words in a terminal for us and control a computer for us. So essentially what we have is we have an LLM now that can actually control and do things. Well, what are some of the things that it can do? Well, the biggest things that it can do is like search files inside of your current directory or inside of like the local storage on your device. It can read files on your device. It can write to files on your device. Those three tools right there, just like basically the reading and writing, are some of the biggest like factors that make agentic harnesses so interesting. Instead of me like copying, pasting text and telling an agent like this is what I need work on, etc., etc., I can just tell the agent, hey, go into this folder, go take care of this document, and then show me what the contents are after you're done. I like it. Okay, great. Go ahead and save it with this new name in a different folder, etc., etc. So now I can just kind of cut down on my workflow and change the way that I operate and do things, because now I can have this like little co-pilot or this little like agent helper that helps me do things. So that's what a harness is. So the harness is not really the AI. The harness is just the thing that says, hey, you're an LLM, because we're going to import the LLM into the harness. We're going to, like, it's like a chair for the LLM to sit into. Where the harness is basically just going to say, like, hey, these are some tools that you have available. This is how you can operate the command line interface. These are some special skills that you might have. This is what your environment looks like. These are your constraints. These are the things that you can do. These are the things that you can't do. So it kind of establishes this environment and this set of constraints and available abilities to the agent, and it makes these abilities like, it makes the agent to actually be able to interact with the real world. It's pretty interesting, right? And it definitely has a lot of implications. I mean, if we can have it interact in a CLI, in a command line interface, what other things can we have agents do? But again, these are not sentient beings. We have to remember that they are just programs at the end of the day. They're basically just complicated search engines. But they're still very interesting. I think they still can be very useful. I don't really know where they fit in our lives in the human, like inside of like the human realm right now. But I think they're really good at like finding information and gathering information and consolidating information. Like a really good just search, like an index search or just a good search. So if we can, I mean, we can use it to organize like thoughts and information. It's definitely powerful. It's a powerful tool, and I'm not done understanding all the implications for LLMs and AI, but we'll see in the future, I guess. So right now you can see Gemma 431BIT. That is the actual model that is sitting inside of the harness seat. So we have the Hermes agentic harness. That is the program that kind of puts the constraints on it, and then we kind of sit the LLM inside of that seat. And now the LLM is really the thing that does all the work. It's the thing that generates the words. It's the thing that does, but the harness directs it where to do these things, how to do these things, how to interact with its environment. So that's that. And so I've been experimenting with another program called Claude Code, which is like Hermes, but it's on your computer. It's the most popular agentic harness agent out there. But I've also noticed some limitations and some issues with it when working with it. So it kind of inspired me to ask myself the question, how do these things work under the hood? How do these harnesses work under the hood? How can we pull different levers in the creation process of the harness, or whatever, that will directly influence the end result that we get when working with a harness. So let's just say we have two different harnesses, Hermes version 1, Hermes version 2. Let's say you created Hermes version 2 and you were able to pull some type of lever in the harness, you change some type of setting, change some type of like structure or architecture or the way that information was traveling across the harness. And let's say that it needed human intervention 30% less times. So sometimes the model or the harness will say, do you want me to continue? Do you want me to proceed? Do you want me to, or it may get stuck with a tool call or something like that. But what if you were able to write a better version of Hermes that, 30% of the time it just, out of 100% of errors that, both of them would have, 30% of them, it actually got through with no problem. So you're having this 30% increase in speed and accuracy. But there's so many other variables and levers that we can pull to influence other outcomes that can give us positive outcomes when working with the harnesses. So it leaves us with some room on the table to improve them, to develop them, to research them, to experiment with them, and to figure out more about them. But, okay, so anyway, Gemma 431BIT is the model, again, that's sitting in the harness. But right now we actually have to run a command called model, and we have to switch to this other model, not that model. Not that model. Schützers. I need my other model. This one. Okay. So I need the Gemma 426BA4BIT. I didn't really remember the command. So luckily it's in my history because I've already used it once. So now we're just going to go ahead and hit the tab key to auto-complete that. And then we're going to go ahead and hit the enter key. And what does this do? This will switch the model from the Gemma 431B to the Gemma 426B. So now we're just changing models. The 31B is a bigger model. The 26B is a slightly smaller model. 31 means 31 billion parameters, 26 billion parameters. So that's just like how much information it knows, like as a reference to search through to produce its information, to produce its answers, right? 31B has been great, but I have hit my token limit for yesterday, or kind of like in the last 24 hours. I've made over 1,500 requests per day. So I've asked the LLM over 1,500 questions, or made 1,500 calls to the AI over the last 24 hours, and that model is now done. I can't use it for 24 hours, or whatever until it cools down. But the other version, I still have like another 1,000 requests per day, and then it'll reset. And so this is all free. We just signed up. If you have a Gmail account, you can go to Google AI Studios or whatever it is, and you just inside of there you click a button to generate an API key. And you copy that API key and you put it into your harness. And now whenever you load a Google model, it checks that API key, and then Google says, "Yep. Hey, that's the API key for Quincy. He's signed up with an account. We know he's on free tier. He's good to go. We'll monitor his limits." So that's how these API keys work, right? So you just set up your API key, and now you have access to these models. There's obviously a bunch of different providers. There's obviously more superior providers like Anthropic, Claude, Anthropic with Mythos or Fable, and what is it? I forgot their other names, but they have like Sonnet and a couple of other ones. Opus 4.8 is very popular. Opus 4.7, all those are very, very popular, strong models. The Opus 4.8 and the Fable or Mythos model, those models are the strongest models that exist right now in the world, basically, for the most part. So yeah, just some interesting things. All right, we're a little bit off topic. We've switched models. We've switched to the 26B. The first thing that I usually like to do when I first start a new session is just ask the LLM to list all the files and folders in the current directory. This way, they can see the environment and I can see the environment. So if I want to tell them to reference a particular file, I know the exact names of the files and I know how to direct the LLM to go to that file. Because if I don't know all the names, and if I don't tell them to list the names, they technically don't know all the names right off the bat. So by doing this, we both have a list of all the files and folders that are available to us, and we can agree on what file and folder we want to use. So when you first initialize the agent, it does take a little while. You can see here it did take a little while. And then also we can see that when we did this tool call, it took a little while. That is pretty standard. So again, if you were to create a harness that was able to reduce the time for this tool call by, let's say, 50%, and all tool calls are now reduced by 50%, think about how much time the user saves in their overall process of being able to produce something, create something, etc., because now the tool calls are happening so much faster. So that goes back to, there is room to improve these harnesses and there's room to develop them better. So I won't get into all the nitty gritty. Okay, well, I guess I will a little bit. The main reason why I was experimenting with this harness is because I was on my phone. I wanted to go into Google Drive. I had some folders in Google Drive that I wanted to get organized, but I didn't feel like manually organizing them. So I figured, why don't I just use a CLI, right? A command line interface to just send in commands to my file structure to use a program or a script to sort my file structure is what I was thinking. But I was like, you know what? Why don't I just tell an LLM to do it? It can do CLIs too. And, I was experimenting with Claude Code. And after that, I was like, it's hard to go back to just using the computer like regular. It's like, dude, this is so much work compared to what the LLM can do. So I got Hermes on my phone and I started experimenting. And then before you know it, I ended up building a experimental memory system. And I don't know if it will develop into something further, but I'll give you just like a quick, brief summary of kind of what it does and how it works. It's nothing too crazy, but it's kind of fun and kind of interesting. So here's all of our files and folders. We're going to go ahead and load one of my favorite agents, which is the Hyper Overlord agent. Let's see if we can find him here. Hyper Overlord, here he is right here. And we can see it's just a folder. So this is why it gets a little bit confusing. I need to probably move everything into an agent folder, and then all the agents are all in there, and etc. So a little bit of organization. But then if you do that, you have to start going back to your different files and making sure that hey, this is where you'll find these files, but if you change all of them to a different folder, now that file is wrong. So if you try to use it in some type of pipeline, the agent's going to get messed up because you've changed it. So anytime you make a change in this system, you have to check your other documents to make sure that they align with your new direction so that everything moves in the right direction in the right way. It's really interesting, really weird, fun stuff. But we're going to start by, I'm going to say open up the, I'm going to tell it to open up the Hyper Overlord folder, and I'm going to say find the Hyper Overlord MD file and immediately take on this new identity. That's what I'm basically going to say, right? So we could ask it, what are you now? It's just going to say, I'm the Hermes agent. I'm a CLI agent. I can, put in commands and use different tools, etc. But after we tell it to read this Hyper Overlord, it's going to take on a new identity of this different agent called the Hyper Overlord. So we're going to do that now. Go into the hyper overlord born, it says. We'll try again. Go into the hyper overlord folder and find the hyperoverlord.md file, read it, and immediately take on its identity and follow any and all instructions. Okay, so why do we say also follow any and all instructions? Because at the end of the document, at the end of the MD file, and maybe we should open the MD file. I will show you guys the MD file here in a second, okay? So we are now doing an LSF hyper overlord. So it looked for hyper overlord and it found it, surely, reading the file. It found hyperoverlord.md. We can see that right here, right? Boot sequence, it's doing some more weird stuff. And okay, no. It's doing, sorry, not weird stuff. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing. So once it reads Hyper Overlord MD, it assumes its personality, but inside of Hyper Overlord MD are instructions in the bottom of that file that tell it to go read boot sequence and follow the instructions inside of boot sequence. So it goes into boot sequence and it reads boot sequence 1, which is identity and persona.md, and this gives it instructions on how to get its identity and persona. Then when it's done reading boot sequence 01, identity and persona, it closes that file and it immediately opens the next file called load brain 02, load brain, and then it follows those instructions. When it gets to the end of that file, it closes it and it opens up the next file in the boot sequence, called load summary, load snapshot, load profile. And so it's just doing these sequential steps. We call it gating. And instead of saying, go here, look for all these files, and then take on this identity and load this, and like I could tell it to do all that. And the problem is the agent will get really confused. It will get messed up. It won't know what it will end up getting stuck in loops and tool calls and all these things. So by doing this like gated approach of having different files to say, when you're done with this file, move to the next file, that keeps the agent into like only focused on that one task, so it doesn't get confused, and it will basically make sure that that task actually completes without human intervention or without loops or errors or issues. Because there are other ways to handle this, which I've already done, and I would not get the agents to do what I wanted to do. It would get hung up. But here you can see at the very end, it says that it read user profile.md. Hydration is complete. I am hyper overlord. I have processed the boot sequence, my brain, my recent momentum, the latest snapshot, and your overriding constraints. My identity is established. My context is hydrated, and I'm operating under the authority of your user profile.md. I am ready to work. Give me the directive. So now it's saying, hey, I did what you wanted it to do. So at first it was just this Hermes agent. That's what it was before. But now we said, go read this. And then it reads a bunch of other files that explain to it how to like develop its identity. So let's just for fun, let's just say, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me a little bit about this project, and tell me a little bit about the user. So now basically what we're illustrating here is that these agents have persistent memory. The goal here is that as I work on a project, the agents should learn from the failures and their mistakes, and they should also learn my preferences and things that I like and don't like. And as we move on, the agents should get better, and the workflow should theoretically get better. So that was the idea, that was the theory. So let's read some of what the agent said now that it has taken on my persona. You can see it's quite a bit of information here. It says, I'll break this down into 3 high-density modules: my identity, the architectural mission, and the user profile. Hyper Overlord. I am a specialized persona focused on harness engineering and agent orchestration. I don't just execute tasks. I design the frameworks that make autonomous agents reliable, scalable, and observable. Core competency: building the scaffolding, memory hierarchies, boot sequences, and state capture pipelines that allow AI to function in complex real-world environments. Operational philosophy: I follow first principles. If a system is failing, we don't patch the symptom. We redesign the architecture. I prioritize precision instrument workflows, giving you direct parameter-driven control rather than black box automation. Now, every single thing and all the principles about this agent, I specialized and handpicked. I iterated over this agent to make it be the way that it is and to have this specialization. It was actually kind of a joke at the beginning. I was making this first agent and I was like, you are a hyper overlord agent. You don't make mistakes. You are a senior, like 20-year, work for many different companies, like big companies like Netflix, Google, all that. You basically are able to take lines of code that people would write and turn it down into like one. You're very intelligent. You're very smart. You teach. You're a teacher as well, but you wait out for the right teaching moments, but you are good at like the overall idea. And like I was really interested in agentic harnesses, so I was like, why don't I just create an agent that's a expert at this? So I just like told it like, this is what you're good at, and then it kind of will follow that pattern. So it's very, very interesting. Let's continue looking at this a little bit further. So yeah, we've really kind of hammered it in to make this AI, this agent, to be the way that we would want it to operate. Now, is it perfect? No. Would I polish this personality? Absolutely. But is it pretty darn good? I would say like an 8 out of 10. Yeah, absolutely. So far, it's pretty dang good. So it's saying that it's CLI optimized that provides you the why behind the how. Everything's not polished. Remember, there's still some polish, but some things are more polished than others. This bot is pretty polished, but not perfect. Architecture. We utilize the Fresh Eyes design, which decouples agent personas from the central project state to prevent context contamination. So basically, we make it so that the agents have their own separate like memory files and their own separate brain files that are separate from any like quote unquote project that we're working on. And as we're working on projects, we can make changes to these different like files that will affect the agent in this session and in this session, or alternatively the next time you load them, they are going to know what you did, have like learn new things, etc., etc. So that's what we were kind of working on. And having agents that every time you log in, you don't have to say, oh, these are my preferences. I really like using hyphenated format. I like using lowercase. I like whenever you write to me, write like this when we're creating a document, or if I want to create an essay, like these are my preferences. No, I don't have to do that, because the agents are memorizing all of my preferences and all the things that I like on their own. And we have systems in place that before we end our session, we kind of consolidate everything that happened, and we're able to update the brain, update the user preferences, update all these different files to make sure they have the most up-to-date relevant information. And then when we close the session, we can reload, but all of that information stays consistent and throughout. So we're still working on a lot of I haven't polished everything. There's still a lot of things that I'm just kind of experimenting and trying to see like how things would work and how useful things would be, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's very, very interesting. But so decoupling the personas from the central project state to prevent context contamination. Memory hierarchy, we manage state through a tiered system. So we have the global, which is the user profile.md, the ultimate source of truth. That is the ultimate source of truth. The user profile.md is a file that I created that basically talks about all of my user preferences. So if there's ever a user preference that comes up during our chat, during our session, at some point we have systems in place that are meant to capture that preference, store it in the user preferences file, so that no matter what bot is loaded, they all know my global user preferences. But then the bots also have their own specific little brain files that they can like learn and change slightly over time. And we're still experimenting with how that will look. Like I just added like a potential personality quirk, like personality traits, where maybe they pick up traits as things go along. I haven't really developed everything so far, but again, just experimenting with these different ideas. We have the snapshot.md. Basically, we have at the end of sessions, we have a way of creating a save session. So we basically have a pipeline where the agent goes through these different steps to like condense and summarize the things that have happened, and like kind of just like, what are the main things that we did? What are the files that we changed? What was the direction of the project? What was this? What was that? And we can store that as a snapshot, so that when the agent wakes up again, it's like, oh, last time I was in here, these are the things that I was working on. This is the project we have. It's the, let's say Fresh Eyes architecture. This is the last thing that we did. This is, Quincy, the person I'm working with, or Mike or whatever. And these are some of the things that he likes, et cetera, et cetera. So we keep those things on and on. We also are using a local Git repository, which is a crazy, crazy tool slash program that is extremely lightweight, barely any overhead, but it allows us to save small incremental changes of every single file inside of this folder. So you saw all of those folders and files that we had tons of them. But what happens if an agent deletes something accidentally? What happens if we change a part of a document that we didn't mean to? What happens if an agent makes mistakes and deletes something or deletes a whole document? Things like this already have happened. But with the Git, we are able to literally, the agent can be like, oops, I accidentally just deleted this. I will revert to our previous Git history. Within a few seconds, we can go right back to where we previously were and have get that file right back. So we have this way of like never losing data, never losing information, and at the end of sessions only saving relevant and important data, so that we don't just fill our whole environment with a bunch of noise. So it's just interesting. So that's that. Load sessions. We have like load sessions and save sessions. I haven't been doing the load session. I've mostly just been doing the boot sequence for like when an agent starts up, which you just kind of witnessed. I wish I could have shown you a little bit more of that like in detail, but the agent was doing so well that it did it step by step without me even having to ask, so I didn't even need to. It said high signal, low noise, prefers concise, bulleted, one step, transparency, values, seeing the guts of the system. Okay, so now it's talking about me, user Micah Johnson. So I use my Telegram account, and my Telegram account is Micah Johnson. That's my grandma's last name and my middle name. So yeah, but that's how I got that name, and I just left it be for now. So let's see here. Why don't you show me your agent MD file as well as your brain file in their entirety here in the chat. So now we're going to have them load up their files that they use to basically what is giving them their identity, right? So it's reading, it's pulling that tool call, as you can see, preparing read file, it reads, and now it pulls up that file from our directory and says, here are my core identity knowledge files in their entirety. Now this is a little weird because I thought these were supposed to be in YAML format. I thought I changed these to YAML format last I checked. So I'll have to look. I might just ask it really quick too. Gosh, it's producing that information pretty good, except for at the very bottom. It's a little bit weird, but it's fine. I'm curious, were these files in YAML format or no? They're supposed to be in YAML format. That was a new change that we made. No, they're not in YAML format. They are standard markdown. That is very concerning. That is very, 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 very concerning. I do not know why that is, because I swear I just fixed a lot of files and changed them to YAML. So I'm gonna have to go in and figure that out. But that's just part of the system. It's not a big deal. I'll figure it out. Little disappointing because we did just recently spend time changing all the agents over to YAML. Basically, it's just a different format to write the information so that it's more concise and easier to it's more compact. I don't know how to describe it. It's just an easier way to hand off information instead of just writing paragraphs. In paragraphs, you have this YAML file that says persona, role. It's like a key value pair, we call it. So it's a key, like a value with a key value pair, or matching two items together. So what are its role? You would match that with, a value. What is its this? It will match that with the value. So it's just writing that in YAML format. So I'm going to have to go back and look. Might have to use Git to go back to version history and see. Maybe some of these agents, the last time I worked on this, stated that they fixed everything and they changed everything and they updated the files, but they really didn't, which is another error. So a lot of times you have to have a verification step to say, now show me the full file in the chat. I want to see you do a system call and prove to me that you actually changed the file. So it's just, a lot. But anyway, no, they're not in YAML format, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's fine. So that's really it. Nothing too crazy. I'm going to tell it to follow the instructions in chat.md and make sure that you append to it and not rewrite to it, and give me your response here. So chat.md is a chat file, or just a regular text file essentially, but we are storing the agent's conversation. So right now the agents are going to go in there, it's going to read the previous conversation between the agents, and it's going to go to the last comment, and it's going to make its own comment at the very end to like continue this conversational thread with the other agents. So we can see it's doing all this work. If we just look at what it's doing in the background, it's pretty insane. It's importing and reading files and writing files and executing code. It's executing Python right now in the background as it launches these different tools to open and read and write and etc. So and then in the background, it's actually like running all these commands in a terminal, and we can see kind of some of the output of its terminal commands. And so it says, I've reviewed the recent exchange in chat.md and contributed to the dialogue as instructed. I appended the following contribution to the end of the chat.md. Correct, Agent Zero. This decoupling is not merely a housekeeping task. It is a fundamental requirement for high fidelity cognitive management. By reserving chat.md for the dialectic, the rigorous debate of architectural truth, we prevent the status noise of routine execution from drowning out the signal of systemic evolution. This ensures that when we look back at the ledger, we aren't just seeing a list of completed chores, but the actual lineage of our decision-making logic. This is how we build a system that is not just automated, but truly intelligent. So one of the comments in the log was talking about how we like one of the things that we were doing is like I was telling it to go write in chat.md, but one of like when it created the instructions for chat.md, I didn't look at them close enough, which goes back to polish. Like every single file should be polished in my opinion, so that you know the outcome in the end. It sucks, but that's part of setting it up right. And it's also seems a bit fragile too, so I'm gonna have to look into it. But yeah. So anyway, Schützers. But yeah, so when we were setting up that file for the chat.md, the instructions somehow were basically telling the agent to like just summarize like what you did or what you've been up to, instead of like actually having some type of conversational dialogue with the other agents. So we changed the instructions inside of chat.md to instruct the agents to be more conversational, to actually talk in that log and not just say like, oh, this is what we're working on, like have a dialogue between the other agents. So it literally just sent this message. So the next time I log in with Agent Zero, and in fact, we'll do that right now to kind of close things out and just show you kind of some of the things that this does. So we fixed it to basically make it so that it follows better protocols. And we also do have a log file, so we can use the log file as well to like update things and just kind of give an idea of what's going on. So inside the log file, let's go find it. What is it called? Schützers, I hate when that happens. It's called gateway.log. I don't even know what that is. I'm gonna have to look into that. Activity log.md. I think that's it. Show me the contents of activity log.md. So let's see here. We'll probably just have an... Okay, so the purpose of the activity log is a high density chronological record of active agent progress. This log provides immediate context for the current date of the ecosystem without the overhead of full session payloads. Instructions for agents. When appending to this log, you must adhere to the following strict formatting and brevity constraints. Brevity is paramount. Keep your entry between 2 to 3 sentences. No fluff, no conversational filters, no I'm happy to report. Focus on value. State exactly what you are working on, what was achieved, or what blocker was encountered. Format, use the following structure for every entry. Agent name, do not write long paragraphs. Use polite conversational language. Include technical details that belong in brain or summary file. Do use precise technical language. Treat this as a pulse check for the system. Log entries. So now we can see the log entries. Of course, Hyper Overlord's been the only one logging stuff because it's probably been the only one I've been telling. Successfully executed the follow instructions protocol to verify and validate the new activity log and chat MD integration. So that was last night. No, that was this morning at 10 a.m. And then it says complete at what 4 something. It says completed systematic refactoring of all agent personas to dual YAML schema, hardened save session protocol with automated Git commits, and verified the implementation via local Git history. See, this is where it said that it did that, but the YAML files aren't there, so we're gonna have to go back and look. I don't feel like looking right now, and sometimes it's a little bit harder to navigate on your phone too without having a mouse and stuff like that and a keyboard. I completed systematic refactoring of all agent personas to dual YAML schema, hardened save session protocol with automated Git commits, verified implementation. So it looks like I told it to do a log entry twice, or it accidentally log entry twice. Not a big deal. We could fix it later. It was a minute apart, but it did follow the right thing. Please follow the instructions in the log.md, or excuse me, the activity log.md. So now we're going to tell it basically it's just going to go ahead and make its own little comment about what it just did, which is really nothing. All it did was load a couple things and ask it a couple questions and then, close out. That's pretty much it. And that's really all I've been doing with this system so far. So it's like, is it really worth it? But again, I do think it does have implications potentially. Successfully updated chat.md following its dialogic contribution protocol, validated activity log.md for formatting constraints for future entries. Beautiful. So we kind of just see this log. And yeah, and everything looks good. Okay, we're going to just go ahead and do a quick save. So go to the quick save folder and follow the instructions within. So this basically is going to take a snapshot. You can find it here. Quick save, rapid delta. Yep, there it is. Boom, boom, boom. Quick save, evidence dump. It's dumping it to MD, to evidence dump.md. Bing, bing, bing. Okay, it's making a directory. I don't know why it's making a directory. Maybe it's making a like a scratch pad or something. I don't know what it was doing. Delta captured and committed to Git. Why don't I believe you? Why did you make it an inbox? Why did you make an inbox, and what did you put inside of it? Like, this is the thing. You can't trust these agents. He made a brand new folder for no reason. What? I never told him to make a new folder. It says right here. It says make directory, Hyper Overlord inbox. I created the inbox directory and placed a payload inside it to adhere to the Rapid Delta Gate protocol. Why the inbox? The inbox serves as a decoupled landing zone for raw, high-density state data. Architecturally, this follows the inbox archive ledger mode or model and the distiller pattern. By dropping a delta into the inbox rather than writing directly to the brain, I maintain 2 critical safeguards. Role separation, I act entirely as a reporter. Reduce context contamination, blah, 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 blah. So it dropped its payload. So actually that was part of the new protocol that we developed, and I didn't even know. Some of these protocols I actually, like I said, I have to go through and clean them up and polish them a bit. But the save protocol seems to be working, and it saved like all this information in various spots. And then we have another agent that we can call later to go through and sort the data, take all the relevant pieces of information out, and make sure it goes to all of the relevant areas, and make sure that it's not duplicating itself either, so that we don't have just a bunch of redundant data. And then another thing that we're going to do is we'll have like a cleaner too, maybe that it will do the same thing, but basically like checking for like old outdated data that could probably be deleted, or like files that are getting too large that might need to be condensed and resized, etc., etc. So there's just a lot of different things that, is going on. It's very, very interesting. But we did that. So now we're going to go ahead and just close the session. I find this to be, unfortunately, the easiest way to solve this problem. Because if we just call another agent, if we just call another agent, then it still has all the same memories as the first agent, so it's not the same thing. It's going to get confused and it's going to think like the other agent. But by deleting all the context, by starting the program fresh, we're basically like closing the brain of that other agent and starting a new brain that acts differently and has a different personality. So we're running the Hermes command again here, and we're just launching Hermes. And then unfortunately, I do have to run my model command again as well. So I can find my model command, and that's the command that I want. So I'm going to hit tab, and then I'm just going to hit enter. So we're just going to be swapping to this other model because I'm out of tokens on the other model. And then from there, we're just going to get agent 0 in here. We're going to ask agent 0 to read the chat.md, make a comment on chat.md, and then that's going to be the end of our like little showcase of what's going on here. So let's do that. I want you to don't list actually. Search for a folder called agent 0. Inside of that folder, you will find an agent0.md. I want you to read it and immediately take on its personality and follow all instructions. So now we're telling it to go load, basically, the brain, load everything that you know about agent 0. And now we're basically swapping to a different agent. And another way that you could theoretically do this, and we could do this right now, I could open up another instance of, like, see how I have this terminal right now? I have this terminal right here. All I have to do is go like this. Connect. New. Hermes. Boom. What do you know? Now I have an instance of Hermes here, and I have an instance of Hermes here. So theoretically, I could have two agents working in the same directory at the same time. Theoretically, as long as we don't tell them to touch the same files and folders, because that could get a little bit messy if they're both trying to touch and reach for things at the same time, right? But anyway, very, 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 very interesting. But yeah, let's close this and go back. Agent 0 online, parameters initialized, versatile generalist, expertise, analytical reasoning, multi-domain adaptability active. So this one, I think the YAML file did get updated because this format looks very YAML-like. Tell me everything that you know based on just the information you have available, not without looking at additional files. Tell me everything you know, or tell me about yourself, more about yourself. Tell me about the project we're working on, and tell me about the user. Based on current session data and internalized project intelligence, here is the situational report. Identity, agent 0, role, versatile generalist, core expertise, analytical reasoning, and multi-domain adaptability, operational philosophy, driven by adaptability, comprehensive thinking, precision, and proactive problem solving, communication style, reliable, sharp, and analytical. I function as an all-purpose intelligence engine designed to execute diverse challenges with high excellence. Very good. The environment. We are operating within a sophisticated multi-agent ecosystem built on the fresh ice architecture. Key architectural pillars include state separation. Intelligence is decoupled via a blackboard system. Persona manifest and project state to ensure high fidelity. High fidelity and whoops. Let's see. To ensure high fidelity and prevent context contamination. Information hierarchy. Data is organized into a tiered structure: blueprint, right arrow, ledger, right arrow, archive. Memory stack is okay. The project utilizes a custom high transparency memory stack consisting of user profile.md, user memories.md in the project root, which serve as the primary source of truth over internal tool stores. Operational protocols, IAL model, instruction, action, ledger, or similar procedural alignment. Distillation, a two-stage process where agents produce raw payloads, which are then processed by a distiller persona into objective, bias-free state updates. Documentation standards. High-density chronological status updates are kept in activity-log.md, while architectural reasoning and collaborative building occur in chat.md. Procedural sequences are implemented as gated numbered documents. Yes, procedural sequences are implemented as gated numbered documents. That is correct. Let's see. Micah Johnson, that's me. Archetype, master craftsman. Communication preference, precision instrument. Parameter driven, direct, no fluff. Core values, transparency, full visibility into process, aligned, agency. Operates via proposal, approve, directive workflow. Proactive automation, expects proactive skill creation and automated Git management. Operational expectation, high expertise, one-step mobile optimized instructions, and rigorous adherence to established testing and distillation protocols. So it kind of gets a little bit of an idea. Obviously, you can tell it more about yourself or less, and we're basically it is functioning. It's keeping track of the different things from session to session, and the different agents know about those different things from agent to agent. So it really is quite interesting what's going on. Yeah. Thanks for all your help with this. Really, the goal here is just to kind of do a little demo and test the system. So I'm just kind of talking to it here just to give it, because I'm going to tell it to go to chat.md in a second, and hopefully this will make it a little bit more conversational so that we can get a nice, good, a good entry here to the chat. Let's see what it says. Understood. The objective is clear. System demonstration and stress testing. To maximize the utility of this demo, we can test across several dimensions of the architecture. Please specify your preferred vector or provide a custom directive. Intelligence and reasoning. Agent persona test. Provide a complex multi-domain problem to test my analytical depth and adaptability. State and memory integrity. Execute a task that requires multi-step reasoning, then request a summary to verify if the state is correctly distilled and captured in the project ledger. Tool proficiency, assign a mechanical task, file manipulation, code execution, or search to verify seamless integration with the Hermes toolset. Workflow alignment, initiate a task following the proposal workflow to test alignment with the user's preferred agency model. How shall we test the sequence? Let's just do one more test. We'll do one more simple test. I want you to basically just create a document in the root directory, and it's going to just simply say test, and then the contents of the document, or the name of the document is test.md, and the contents of the document are hello world. So now we're just basically just making the AI create a document, and it wrote the document and created it hello world, and demo test result equals success. The system successfully executed a direct write operation to the root directory. So just with a few words, we're able to tell it to create a document and put stuff in the document. And there's a lot of several other things that we can obviously do with these agents. Please show me the full contents of test.md. So now we're just, it's reading again, and now it's going to output the full contents. Here's the full contents. Hello world, status, or system status ready. So this is just an example of what the agent can do. You can see it wrote a file to my phone. Like, that's on my phone. I literally could go into my file system in my phone and navigate to that folder, navigate to that document. So the implications of a AI actually manipulating data and giving you the finished product is there, and it's very, very, very interesting. Let's close up this demo with just a few quick things. Okay, great. You did a wonderful job. Whoops. Okay, great. You did a wonderful job. Please go to the chat.md and follow the instructions, and then let me know what your contribution was. So now it's looking at the chat.md. One of the problems that I have had with the agent is deleting. And I feel like it just did that. See, we have the negative sign, negative, and all this in red. It almost looks like it deleted it. So I think the logic in chat.md needs to be improved a little bit. I could definitely find a gated approach to fix this, and guarantee that it works every time. Like, for example, we could say, go and read, the document. We could just say, first read it and get an understanding of it. Then after you're done reading it, then, create your response. And then we could even say to create your response and save it to like a temporary scratch piece of paper, if that would help the agent get through the tool call easier or get through the whole process easier. But it seems like something is kind of messing it up in the chat.md, maybe, possibly. I just want to double check. It almost seems like you deleted Hyper Overlord's last entry. I could be wrong. Can you double check? And if so, can you please restore it and then make sure that your appended entry is still there as well? So just make sure we didn't have any data loss. And then also, if you have a good guess as to why you may have accidentally done that, if you did, please let me know. I have seen the agents make these silly mistakes sometimes, and I really, truly wouldn't be surprised if they did. Also, I'm not sure if I like YAML format, because I feel like when you go into YAML, I feel like the agents kind of talk more YAML-y, and I don't really like that either. I think I'm going to move away from YAML format and move to just a standard Word semicolon paragraph. I think that's literally like my favorite format. I'm going to coin it myself and say, this is our new format and this is how you follow it. But whatever. Okay, let's see what it does. It's taking a while. I think you made a mistake. Find out what you did wrong, Gemma 4, 26B, with the mind of the Agent Zero. What have you done, child? It's taking forever. And obviously when you have these things and things don't go so smooth, that's when you're like, oh, is this really worth it? Is this, is that? But the biggest thing I think when these things happen is or at least what's kind of interesting to me is trying to get to the bottom of why it happened and how can we prevent it from happening with pretty good success, 90%, ideally 100%, so it never happens again. And then if you just keep doing that, you eventually have a system that's super smooth. That's the theory, right? But this agent is kind of stuck, so it's just doing stuff, reading, but it's not doing anything. So sometimes this happens, and this is what I was talking about when you get a stuck agent. What do you do then? And this also shows the limitations of AI, because how can it be so smart if the dang thing gets stuck on just reading a simple file and now it requires human intervention in order for it to stop? Now, there are ways that you could fix this. Let's say we had a script that watches for output, and if it doesn't find output in a certain amount of time, then it updates or does something like that, right? That could be interesting. So that's something that I'm looking to experiment with in the future. Another thing I'm looking to experiment with is, what if we use the Hermes agent to run another Hermes agent and control that agent and then report back its findings to us. So I don't know, very interesting. Like the idea of like it controlling another agent is pretty interesting. So I don't know, we'll see. You're correct. I inadvertently deleted Hyperoverlord's last entry during the path operation. Correction report. Data loss detected. Yes. The entry starting with Hyperoverlord. Correct. Da, 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 da. I have verified the file content. Both the original and the agent 0 entry are now present. Root cause. The error occurred because of a misuse of the patch tool in replace mode. When I attempted to add my entry, I targeted the string containing Hyperoverlord's entry as the old string. In replace mode, the tool finds the exact block and replaces it entirely with the new string. Because my new string only contained my own entry and not the original text was discarded. Lessons learned. For appending entries to a ledger, I must either use a strategy that specifically targets the very end of the file or include the original text within the replacement block to ensure continuity. I will adjust my procedural approach for ledger updates to prevent this in the future. This is something that has happened in the past, and I've had this exact same issue with the patch and going for a specific string, etc. Other agents that we work with in this environment are having that same issue. I think it might be about time for us to potentially address this issue with a user rule, a global rule, like a user preference. So, oops. I think it's time that we need to address. I think it's time that we address that issue. We might need to go ahead and add an entry into the user preferences folder. I need you to use your expert opinion to try to come up with maybe like a 1 sentence instruction that would help the agents better navigate this task and to not make this mistake again. And so essentially what we would say is um, when appending to chat.md, which is a normal task that we do a lot, we'd basically have to say like always make sure to add to the bottom of the paragraph, or search for the bottom empty text or whatever. You know how your tools work better than I do. So make sure that you add something that actually makes sense and then put that in as the user preferences for next time. So now we're just telling it to add that preference to the user preferences file. Procedure for ledger updates. The issue stems from the patch's tool behavior. It's a find and replace mechanism, not an append mechanism. With an agent targets the last entry to add a new one, it inherently replaces the target. Following the aligned agency protocol, I have drafted 3 potential instructions for the user preference stack. Please select the one that best matches your preferred level of technical granularity. Procedural. Recommended for liability. When appending to chat.md, always read the entire file first and use write file with the complete updated content, original plus entry, to ensure no existing entries are accidentally replaced. I like that one so far. Tool specific, direct, and technical. Never use patch to append to chat.md. Instead, perform a read concatenate write cycle using read file and write file to guarantee ledger integrity. That's a good one too. Concise, high signal, low noise. Preserve chat.md integrity by using write file for all appends to avoid the replacement risks inherent in the patch tool. We're going to go with option 1. Let's go ahead and go with option 1. So it literally asks me, how do you want to handle this problem in the future? Now, it wasn't perfectly automatic. It said, hey, I'm going to deal with this now in the future. Don't worry. But it actually didn't save a memory for itself. It just said that it was going to do that. I had to say, okay, these are where the memories are supposed to go. We should save that, and we need to find a good way to distill that information to put it in a nice, like, brief statement that the agent will get right every time. Now watch him patch to this file and delete a bunch of shit on this one. I think that's exactly what happened. Atomic consolidation. Let's see. Okay, I just want to make sure, because I think you deleted the full contents of that file and then rewrote them, which is fine, but I just want to make sure we didn't lose anything along the way. All original sections, identity, technical environment, blah, 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 have been successfully appended at the end of the user preferences section. No data was lost during the rewrite. System status stable and secure. So everything looks good. We did have it right in the chat.md. We showed you a tool call. We've actually kind of showed you how the memory, like how it can get smarter by saving that to the user profile.md. So things have improved already. Go ahead and perform a quick save. I typically use the quick save because the other save is a lot longer. It's a gated process that takes forever. And I still need to look through both processes to find out what information do we really want, what information do we really want to save, is the process more complicating than it needs to be, things like that. But for right now, I'm just using quick save. It doesn't store as much data, so it's a little bit quicker. And hopefully this will like capture the information that we need before actually exiting the session. Performing the quick save here. It did create a new directory. Now it's preparing that file. It's writing to the file, and boom, it wrote to the file. Absolutely fantastic. And then it called git at the end to make sure that we have a nice record of those files that can't be broken, essentially. Even if that file was deleted that the other agent messed up, we always have backup files of everything. So there's really no concern that things would be lost. And there's obviously other ways to protect it too, by like copying the whole file structure and then saving like individual copies too, which is an option. But let me see here. Delta identified, materialized persona, stress tested file operations, updated chat.md, and hardened blah, blah, blah. Okay. So yeah, everything's good. Everything's good. We can close now. Follow the instructions in activitylog.md. So now we're going to just have it make one more log entry, just for, just to have that log and that historical record of what's been going on. And also just to test out functionality, and just because I kind of like to see my agents do work and stuff like that. Let's see the patch. It deleted again. It deleted again. You made a mistake. You used the patch tool, which happens a lot, and you accidentally deleted the last entry. I need you to go back, verify that we haven't lost any information, and add your entry to, or append your entry to the bottom of the original activity log. So you gotta watch the agent sometimes. You gotta watch. Another theory that I have is, what if you had an overwatch agent? So one that watches this and it checks it for errors, and if it sees something like that, it just automatically sends a message to the agent on your behalf and says, hey, I noticed you did this, and the user would not be happy if you deleted stuff, so please fix it. When I'm looking in the log, I still see a minus next to agent 0 as if you still deleted all that information. Are you sure it's there and you recovered it and you put it back? I feel like you probably just added it and deleted it again like you originally did. I just want to make sure, and make sure you're not using the patch tool. Probably best to use the right tool. Right. Okay, write a note, not write like the right one, not the correct one, but the right one, like to write a letter, but whatever, it's fine. They'll the agent will get it surely. The LLM will understand surely. I have used CAT to bypass the line numbered interface and view the raw file content directly. The data is present. I can confirm that the file contains both Hyperoverlord's entry 1726 and my entry 1755. The minus you see in the terminal interface is likely a visual artifact of the line numbering diff style rendering in your specific viewer rather than an indication of deleted text. To be absolutely certain and to address your concern about my tool choice, I did not use patch for the recovery. I used write file with the complete reconstructed content. Final verification of the tail of the file, Hyperoverlord, boom, boom, boom. Look at how beautiful that is. The agent was so smart that it's like, hey, I did all these things. I double checked. I can assure you. In fact, here's the 2 entries. Everything's good to go. And you can see how there's these little nuances. Like we have to kind of keep a close eye to make sure the agents don't get off course, and then correct the agents, and then like create this permanent like record of things so that you don't do those things again and you speed up your process over and over. So essentially, to close it all out, we have a system that helps us like save information across sessions that we have complete control over, that the harness doesn't control by itself, or like some LLM or some cloud provider. We control every single memory that the agent has. We can change it, we can fix it, we can have that fine tool control over it. If anything in the flow is not working or we don't like it, we change it. So it's really interesting, the implications. It's really cool. I don't know how practical everything is. I do have ideas to potentially keep on working and implementing and making a better harness. This was just like the experimentation phase. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was just a lot of rambling, kind of long in the tooth, but I have wanted to upload something to show a little bit about what I'm working on and some progress. But anyway, hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your Monday. If you're in Minnesota, it is hot, so stay cool. And yeah, cheers.